I'm Sandy Petersen, and we're going to talk about the Darkness Empire in God's War. So let's talk about Darkness. First of all, their unique ability is pretty fabulous. It's called Hellborn, and what it means is that when they have units in Hell, either area, they can move from Hell to any area on the surface world without permission, just like they're moved from Hell there. Now, of course, if they have more than one unit in the area, as always with movement, they can move to more than one area. This works out really greatly with their startup situation where they have no buildings in play, but all 4 of their troll minions start in the outer Hell. Their weakness is that they cannot conquer or build buildings on the spike or in the sky dome. They can still destroy them, they just can't build there. So it's not much of a weakness, but it does affect them every game. Let's talk about their buildings. They have, one more weakness. Part of the weakness is the Hellborn only applies with the start of the second action phase. The first action phase, they can't emerge from Hell yet. They have to wait till later. The purpose of this is that historically Hell needed time to react and burrow up when Sun first went to Hell, and also because it gives other players a chance to implement some kind of defenses against Hell's oncoming assault the next turn. So Hell's buildings, they have shrines, temples, and a ziggurat like everyone else. They also have a 4th kind of building, the Castle of Lead. This building they can't place until they get a certain gift associated with it, which we'll get into later on. Now, the special ability of their temples and ziggurats is that they are essentially gates to Hell. If you have units in a temple or ziggurat, you can use the move action to go from there to Hell. Now, it only counts when you're doing a move action, so for example, if you're on a ziggurat and someone attacks you, you can't be routed to Hell, but moving there is usually good enough for your purposes. So, now, their units, they have 4 troll minions, which cost 1, combat 1, like all of them do. They have their hero only costs 2, and unlike every other hero who has combat equal to their cost, their hero only has a combat of 1. And this is for a couple of reasons. One is that the gift associated with the hero, every hero has a combat gift, is especially good. And also because it means that Darkness finds it harder to let Sun out of Hell, which is a Darkness feature. And so both those play into their mistress, which is Crag Spider, the Fire Witch. She only has 1 combat. They have 3 lesser gods, the Shades, who, as all lesser gods do, cost 2, have a combat of 1. And then they have the Hell Mother, Kyger Leader. Now she costs 4, and like a lot of greater gods, you have to have a temple in play, or a ziggurat, or your Castle of Lead. Any one of those will do. Typically it's a temple. Now, as always, you don't have to summon her to a temple, you just have to have a temple somewhere in the map. Her combat is equal to 8 minus the total Darkness Empire units in your pool. Now, there are 9 total Darkness Empire units in your pool. Of course, one of them is her, so she doesn't count. So if they're all in your pool and you only have the Kyger Leader on the map, her combat is 0. But typically it's higher than that, especially since her special ability that you get with her Nocturnal Raids, which occurs during the power phase, is that you take all of the troll minions in your pool and you put them in Hell. So typically at the start, so in other words, at the start of each action phase, you have all 4 trolls on the map and you have her on the map, so your combat is at least 4 for her, plus it might be more if you've summoned other units. So she has a decent combat, and her ability is very useful because it enables you to get those trolls back into play, and the best place possible in Hell, where they can burrow up using Hellborn and attack anyone they want. Okay, let's talk about the hero quests. The elephant in the room is that they have 1 special hero quest that takes up 2 slots. It's really big. And this hero quest, what you have to do is you have to kill or destroy, well, kill in the case of a unit, destroy in the case of a building, 1 building or unit from each other faction. So, you know, knock out a Chaos Nest, and when you kill it, you take the unit and you put it on top of that hero quest until you've collected them all. So you can kill a Chaos Nest and put it there, then you can kill a Storm Barbarian and put it there, then you can, you know, whatever. You can use Sun Spear to annihilate a a sky unit. Well, you can't use Sunspirit. What am I thinking? Your darkness. But you can kill them, and then you collect these and you put them there. When you got all three, then you get that reward. And the reward is you give the pieces that you've killed back to the owners. And sometimes if you've killed a particularly nice piece, like for example, if you've killed a ziggurat or a greater god, you may not want to give it back right away and kind of hang on to it for a bit. But eventually you want to give it back because you want your gifts. You get 2 gifts. And you get power equal to the number of enemy players. So if you're playing a 4-player game, you get 2 gifts and you get 3 power. And this often but not always comes to the end of a turn, so it gives you, it kind of jump starts you at the end of the turn, unless you wreak more havoc for that turn and set yourself up really nicely. The other gifts you have 1 gift that is lose a unit in battle. This isn't too hard a one to pull off, and it helps mitigate a failed attack. Then you have the usual one that everyone gets, which is place your ziggurat. You put down your ziggurat, you get a gift, like most factions that have ziggurats do. When you summon your greater god, the Hell Mother, you get a gift. Again, like almost every faction. And your final one that I'm going to discuss is that you have to have a hero, a minion, a lesser god, and a greater god in play. One of each of your things. So you kind of have to spread it out and make sure you got all the units. Sometimes this happens when you finally get your greater god. Sometimes you get your greater god, then you realize that, oh my gosh, I don't have my a shade out yet, so you got to pay for your shade. Whatever it is, you get 1 of each, that gift appears. So we will now discuss Darkness's gifts and how they play into using her abilities to wreak havoc and cause trouble among the other players. So one I already intimated was around is the Ancestor Worship gift. This is the gift that lets you place the Castle of Lead. Now the Castle of Lead costs 4 power, and you can place it to replace any building. When you place it, you also get a rune. And that's each time you place it. So if someone destroys your Castle of Lead, you place it again, you get a rune. The Castle of Lead also has the it acts like a ziggurat, basically. It's a gate to hell, and it causes a kill when someone attacks it. And of course, the reason the Castle of Lead is cool is it's a 4th kind of building. So if you can set up your shrine, temple, ziggurat, and the Castle of Lead, that's 8 base power you get in every turn, and it gives you a nice bump throughout the game. Plus, of course, there's the rune when you get it. Okay, next is their Hunger rune. Now, Hunger is their hero's combat ability. And what it does is, now I mentioned earlier that their hero, the Mistress, only has 1 combat. Well, if you get the Hunger rune, you don't roll her combat at all. Sure, okay? And what happens instead is, during the battle, when the attack takes place, you choose whether she inflicts 1 automatic kill or 2 routes. Now, of course, usually Chaos goes for the kill, but sometimes 2 routes is better because it helps save a building. Her Hunger gift is really useful in getting that 1 big hero quest they have to do, where they have to collect 1 of each enemy unit, because you just take the Mistress, who only costs 2 after all, send her into combat, she's certain to get a kill, and you got your captive. So it plays really well into her what she needs. Then she has the Pomp. Sorry, let's do Fear first. She has Pomp. We'll talk about Fear first because they go together. Fear is another battle effect, and what it is normally after a battle, of course, anyone who's routed, the person who routed them picks where they go. Well, this is also true for Darkness, like everyone else. But if you have Fear, you can route them anywhere on the map. In other words, not just to an adjacent area. You can route them to Hell, which is often what Darkness does. But anywhere on the map means they're far away from you or anywhere else they can be. It's just a really handy ability. And the reason I mentioned it in conjunction with Psychopomp is because the Psychopomp ability is an ongoing ability that whenever any group of units goes to Hell, then you, Darkness, immediately receive either 1 power or 1 victory point. It's up to the player who went there to pick which one. Now, usually they're better off picking the power because victory points are precious, but sometimes it's near the end of a turn they really don't want you to have a power, and so they'll pick the victory point. Either way, you love sending guys to Hell, or having units enter Hell, and of course people don't like to go their own, so you can use Fear to send them there, and then you can even put in the Hunger ability of your Mistress hero, so she can be for sure sending people to Hell with her route ability, or you can just kill them with with hunger, but if you rout them, then they use fear, they go to hell, then Psych Mount gives you a power or victory point, and it turns into this like a victory point or power earning machine that is, plus the enemy units then tend to clog up hell and be there, and it's pretty awesome. The final ability I want to discuss is Black... Oh, I have two final abilities. First, we'll talk about Black Market. Black Market is their Council Phase ability. And what happens is each Council Phase, that when they have Black Market in effect, they pick up a rune from the pile of runes, and they look at it, and then they pick which player gets it. Okay? Now, if they pick another player, they just hand him the rune, and then that player has to decide if Chaos gets 2 power or 1 victory point. They don't spend it, Chaos just gets it, and they can't, if they don't want to choose, then you get to pick for them. So basically, each turn with Black Market, you can get 2 power or a victory point. It's always good. Now, you can, if you want, look at the rune and say, whoa, this is a great rune, I need to keep it for myself. If you do that, then you have to pay 2 power or a victory point, your choice. And some runes are probably worth it, and some runes you're probably better off, most of the time you're probably better off giving it to someone else and getting the power and victory point, but sometimes it's worth keeping. Also, of course, you can use it for a little social engineering among the other players, saying, oh, this player, I'm going to be your bud, look, I'm giving you this rune, isn't that awesome? And then, of course, maybe they'll be grateful, maybe they won't, but at least you had it there. Their final ability is another combat ability. It's the ability that's associated with their lesser gods, the Shades, and it's called Spectral Form. And what it does is it lets the Shades absorb 2 combat results. Okay? Now, a single kill will still kill a Shade, but you can apply 2 kills to it. It's no more dead than if you applied 1, and it means you've saved another unit from being killed. Or you can soak up pains with it, or a kill and a pain, whatever you want. The point is, if you have Shades in the area, it protects your other units from death and decimation and makes them a really useful unit to have along with your Hellmother, because usually you don't want to get her killed. So it's a defensive ability. Now, talking about how Chaos works. In general, because Chaos's units don't have very high attacks, I mean, even their hero is only a 1. The Hellmother does, but you kind of don't want to lose her. So this means that you have to... You can't really go head-to-head with some of the units that have a lot of combat. Like Chaos rolls a lot of combat dice. You don't. Even though you have that for sure kill from the Mistress and Hunger, like, you're better off raiding, hitting small areas, kind of sneaking around and hitting them where they're weak. Fortunately, that's really easy for you to do because your temples go send you to hell, and from hell you can go anywhere on the map, so you can generally go strike at areas which are inconvenient for the enemies to get to and defend. And you thus turn into not a scavenger exactly, but an opportunist. You say, oh, I get him here, now I'm going to get him here. And so that is a handy thing. And of course, then units are going to hell, you get your points for that. You use Black Market to boost up the empires that seem to be lagging behind so they can take on the guys you're afraid of. And everything kind of goes into this big machine of earning victory points and earning power and capturing lost shrines in the corner of the map and so forth. So that is Darkness.